Hello, I'm Jake Boudreau, civic journalist at Tello Community Television. This episode of Strait Talk centers around an announcement by the Canada Infrastructure Bank of $224.2 million in loans to Port Hawkesbury Paper for the construction of the Goose Harbour Lake wind farm in Guysborough County, which was made on January 6th at the Mulgrave Fire Hall.
It's a real pleasure to be with all of you, and I see so many people in the room. I see Minister Boudreau, of course, and Mr. Hallman, and of course, so many other folks that make this community tick. I see Amanda Mummerket, and of course, Amira Chisholm's here, and Alan McMaster is here, and so many other folks that have been working on this particular project for quite some time. I also want to highlight the partnership between Port Hawkesbury Paper, Wind, and Nova Scotia's 13 Mi'kmaq First Nations communities, and how they will significantly contribute towards a clean energy transition in our province. And I've said this actually across the country, but in particular, in our riding, is the power of partnerships in rural Nova Scotia is key. When we work together, hand in glove, different levels of government, private entities, not-for-profits, unions, good things are going to happen. And I often say that big things can happen in rural Canada, and certainly in our riding here. Now let's get back to the energy sector, and in particular, the rapidly expanding green energy sector. Cape Breton and Northeastern Nova Scotia are not only emerging as a serious competitor, but quite frankly, we're emerging as a leader in the green energy sector. And that doesn't happen by accident. And again, it's all because of you, folks that are in the room and folks that are on Zoom today. And I'd also like to acknowledge that Bevan Locke, the manager of Port Hawkesbury Wind Limited, is here along with provincial colleagues, as I mentioned, Trevor Boudreau, Minister Hallman, and Sasha Gunnar-Atat. Do I have that correct? Or close? Close enough. So he's the manager director of investments at the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So I want to get to the heart of it. Today, we're making through the Canada Infrastructure Bank, we're making a significant announcement. We're pleased to announce that an investment of $203.9 million to support the construction of Nova Scotia's largest wind farm right here. Now, this will enable 13 Mi'kmaq First Nations through the WNA to buy a 10% stake in the project and provide Indigenous representation on Port Hawkesbury Paper Wind's board of directors. The economic benefits here for both the Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, quite frankly, will be significant and are expected to create over 150 construction jobs for the region. Once completed, these 24 wind turbines will supply 168 megawatts of zero-emission electricity, providing affordable and clean energy that will support Nova Scotia's energy grid. Now, on behalf of the Honourable Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, I would like to congratulate everyone for coming together to help create this economic opportunity and really supporting Nova Scotia's clean energy transition. And again, it comes down to a common denominator, the power of partnerships. As a member of Parliament, I believe in that. I believe that that's where the fight is. That's how we achieve great results in our communities. I believe it unleashes potential, like we're talking about here today. And I believe in a couple of things, actually three things in relation to this project. You know, when we stand for communities and not for cuts, and when we stand for diversity and not division, we stand for opportunity and not austerity. Good things are going to happen. This is about greening our grid for sure. This is about renewable energy for sure. And I've said this time and time again to folks in Ottawa that oppose renewable energy. And I say, oppose it. That Cape Breton and Northeastern Nova Scotia, in fact, all of the province of Nova Scotia, can be what renewable energy, what oil and gas is rather, to Alberta. We can be that in terms of renewable energy here in Nova Scotia, not just for Canada, but for the world. So it's my pleasure to be here on an exciting day that came with a lot of work. Now, there's nothing too exciting happening in Ottawa right now, so I think we'll have the news coverage covered really, really well. But I will say it's a pleasure to be here and working with the province. But both past and present, the last provincial government, progressive conservative government, and this one. You truly get it. You truly get the importance of renewable energy and the role it plays in the lives of Nova Scotians, our businesses. And I respect that. And you have been nothing but a great partner in that. And for Port Hawkesbury Paper and for all the different groups, all the different liaison groups, thank you for caring enough to make this place a better place for us and for future generations. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike, for those inspiring remarks and letting us know there's nothing going on in Ottawa. It's pretty quiet. So we're hoping we're going to get top front page national news, hopefully today. Let's go, Cape Breton. And next, we're fortunate to have the Honorable Trevor Boudreau, Nova Scotia's Minister of Energy, with us today to share the province's vision on this project and beyond. Please welcome Minister Boudreau.
Thank you, Jeff, and it's obviously great to be here with you all today. And as my colleagues, are with me here today, but I'd like to make a few other acknowledgements. Obviously, MP Mike Callaway, our MP here in Cape Breton-Canso. I don't think Chief Denny or Chief Peters is here today, but I think they were intending to be here. So sorry if they are on there, great. If not, sorry they couldn't make it. I know Warden Long is here as well. Hi, Warden Long, and Mayor Chisholm is here as well. And I think Warden Landry was online. I don't know if she still is, but I know she was trying to be. Wind can do that, right? It can maybe impact some of that, but certainly I know there's some other councillors here as well from across the Strait area. So thank you all for coming, along with Bevan and Crystal and Sashin. And my colleagues are here as well, Minister Tim Hallman and Minister Greg Morrow and former colleague Alan McMaster as well. Nice to see you here in the crowd as well. And I'd like to thank Crystal for starting the event with the recognition that we are in Mi'kmaq. So thank you for that. And I'm happy to be here with you all for this exciting announcement and to be in a room with full of people who are as eager as we are to make the move to clean energy. I want to acknowledge the pivotal role that WMA and the First Nations play in this effort. The Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia are strong leaders and supporters and partners in the transition to clean energy. And I may be new to this role as Minister of Energy, but I'm very familiar with Port Hawkesbury Paper. As many of you know, the Port Hawkesbury Paper Mill is in my riding in Richmond County, and I know how important this company is to our communities, not only as a leader in pulp and paper industry, but also as a valued employer and as a champion for sustainable, prosperous Nova Scotia. This company has a long history of taking a sustainable approach to forestry while creating good-paying jobs in rural Nova Scotia. And now they're expanding their sustainability commitment with Goose Harbour Lake. And as the province's largest consumer of electricity, Port Hawkesbury Paper is putting wind to work to reduce their carbon footprint. And this project will further reduce our carbon footprint while creating new opportunities for Nova Scotians. When good-paying jobs come to Nova Scotia, there are fewer families using food banks. Fewer families worrying about rent or mortgage payments. Fewer kids worrying about how they'll pay for their university or college education. A good-paying job is the best solution to many of the challenges we face. And we look forward to more green, good-paying jobs coming to Nova Scotia. And when people ask me if it is possible, I point right here to the Strait of Canso. From green hydrogen to onshore wind and offshore wind, it is a hotbed of clean energy activity. But government alone cannot create these jobs. We need people like you. We will come to the table, we will set the right regulations and position Nova Scotia for growth. But we need investors and businesses coming here to create the jobs that we need. We are committed to working with businesses and investors to bring more projects, more growth, and more prosperity to our shores. We are doing this because we must. It is what the people of this province deserve. So in conclusion, I want to applaud Port Hawkesbury Paper for their contributions to renewable energy, to ecological forestry, but most importantly to our people. Each job we create together creates a series of opportunities and improves the lives of hardworking Nova Scotians across this great province. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Boudreau, for sharing with us how this project aligns with Nova Scotia energy goals. Feels like the Golden Globes. Just a little bit, eh? A little bit. You guys feel that last night? You guys watched that? That's pretty good. Up next, I'd like to welcome Paul Long, a warden of Guysborough County, to speak about this project in the local community. So once again, please welcome Warden Long.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just thinking all the talk about the weather and travel and everything. If I was still in my old job as a educator, principal, and so on, I'd be home today. But probably not home because we always come in anyway. But it's certainly a great pleasure to be here today to represent the municipality of the District of Guysborough. And I just recognize Councillor Neil Dekoff, who is also here at the table, and Councillor Mary Desmond, who's online, as other people who are involved with the announcement here today. The municipality district of Guysborough is pleased to be able to partner with Port Hawkesbury Wind in this exciting cooperative effort to provide green energy for the operation of the paper mill. The many partners that have been identified demonstrates how we can all come together to create economic development opportunities that reflect the overall need to think about how we evolve green energy projects, both in terms of sustainable, environmentally sound practices and how the long-term effects of economic development allow our communities to grow in a proactive and responsible manner. Port Hawkesbury Wind has been, or Port Hawkesbury Paper has been actively involving the community in the development of the wind farm project, promoting the community liaison committee, which helps the general public become aware and up to date of the progress of the project. We've been in discussion with the opportunities surrounding community benefits agreements, which will serve to address local needs for years to come. And a lot of these things that are going on, you know, certainly allow for a better sharing of communication, better sharing of information, and then it makes it seem like a real project going on. People are aware and involved in it. By maintaining an open dialogue with surrounding communities, Port Hawkesbury Papers laid a path that will be part of the way agreements are reached as other projects unfold in our municipality and throughout Nova Scotia. MODG looks forward to maintaining a close relationship with Port Hawkesbury Wind, and while the wind may not blow this hard every day, a common eye towards how developers and all levels of government can work together to promote sound and green projects in the future certainly gives us a sense that the wind is certainly blowing in the right direction. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to Jeff and company and our other levels of government. I think it's important that we all kind of put our best foot forward together, no matter what political stripe may be behind someone. I think at the end of the day, if we're doing things because it's the right thing to do, then the whole communities are going to prosper from that. So congratulations.
So just going to back things up a little bit. Minister of Environment is here too as well to share a few words. Tim Hallman. Tim Hallman. So I'd like to invite you up to say a few words.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Hallman. I have the honor of serving as Nova Scotia's Minister of Environment and Climate Change. There have been a lot of great shout outs to folks here from Port Hawkesbury Paper, to our Mi'kmaq, to councillors. I just want to give a shout out to some incredible staff people we have from the government of Nova Scotia. Often the ministers and MPs and MLAs were the face of things, but it's staff that often makes things happen. So I want to give a shout out to Paul Keats from the Department of Environment. Many of you know Paul. And of course, we have the two Daves. These are the Daves I know. If you're a fan of the Kids in the Hall, we got Dave McGregor and we got David Miller. So please give them a warm welcome. While the ministers set the tone and set the vision, it is our senior teams that make it happen. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my good buddy, Minister Greg Morrow, and of course, a great friend and mentor, Nova Scotia's former Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, Alan McMaster. Great to see you. Great to see you all. Folks, one of the first meetings I took as a rookie minister in the fall of 2021 in Tim Houston's first term as Premier was with Port Hawkesbury Paper and Ron Stern. And I had a very, very informed meeting. I always knew the important role Port Hawkesbury Paper played within the economy of Nova Scotia. But in that meeting, it dawned on me just the huge responsibility I had as the environmental regulator to work with Port Hawkesbury Paper to ensure the sustainability of this incredible project. So look, bottom line, what an incredible day this is for Port Hawkesbury Paper. for the residents of Guysborough County, Antigonish, Inverness, and Richmond counties who depend on this mill for their livelihoods. And of course, for the people who will benefit from the good paying jobs that were just outlined by my colleague, Minister Boudreau. It's also a great day for Nova Scotians who are experiencing the impacts of climate change. I want you to know Nova Scotia has long been a leader in Confederation on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and taking action in response to climate change. It is projects like this that help keep our industries and companies strong and competitive, and they help Nova Scotia maintain our national standing as a climate change and environmental leader. This work has helped us garner a third place spot in Canada. We are ranked third in Canada for our energy and climate change policy, according to Pembina Institute. This recognition of Nova Scotia's leadership and achievements is a testament to everyone who is working hard to ensure our province is resilient, sustainable, and energy independent. I want to thank Port Hawkesbury Paper for their leadership in transitioning to clean, renewable energy. And of course, I want to thank the Government of Canada for supporting this project. As Nova Scotia's Minister of Environment and Climate Change, I'm especially pleased about how this wind project will help us meet our legislated greenhouse gas reduction targets and achieve net zero by 2050. We are the only province in Confederation with a legislated climate change targets, 80% renewables by 2030. We all know that the world we live in is changing every day, and clean, renewable energy is the path forward. Clean, renewable energy creates good-paying jobs, especially in rural areas, and it'll help us better manage the cost of power and do our part to lower global emissions and bring down global temperature forecasts. And we're fortunate to have some of the best wind conditions here in Nova Scotia for producing wind energy. Look, it's just not the politicians that blow wind here, all right? We have world-class winds in Nova Scotia. In many respects, when you think of the epicenter of clean, renewable energy, it's here in northeastern Nova Scotia and in Cape Breton. The government of Nova Scotia has set our sights on making Nova Scotia a clean, renewable energy powerhouse, producing what we need to meet the needs of Nova Scotians and exporting this to the world. And I know people who live in this area and the government of Nova Scotia, along with the government of Canada, we want the same thing, to have good paying jobs, strong economy, lower electricity bills, and of course, to protect the environment. Make no mistake, wind energy will help make these things happen. Together, we're writing our own story, our own vision for Nova Scotia, a future with good paying jobs in the clean economy, and with innovative, strong employers like Port Hawkesbury Paper, we are going to make this happen. So today, we move one step closer to making this vision a reality. Folks, thank you so much for the work that you are doing. On behalf of the Department of Environment and Climate Change, the work that is happening here with Port Hawkesbury Paper, we are all very, very impressed, and we are here to support you. Thank you. Merci. Voilà les arts.
And thank you for sharing from the province. And I also truly believe that too. We're the best of the best. This Cape Breton Island, where we live, where we're from, you know, Cabot Trail, same, you know, Taj Mahal, Great Wall of China. We're on that same list. We're the third best island in the world on that list. So let's keep it going. At this time, I want to, I think we're going virtual at this time, right? Virtual at this time. I'd like to invite Nigel Cave, the Vice President and Senior Legal Counsel for Stern Partners, Director of PHP Wind, to share their perspective on this remarkable collaboration. Please welcome Nigel.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. First of all, I'd like to thank Crystal for the acknowledgement and Jeff for our opening prayer. I'd also like to thank the Mulgrave Volunteer Fire Department for hosting today's event. So much appreciated. For those of you who don't know me, as Jeff said, my name is Nigel Cave. I'm the Senior Vice President of Port Hawkesbury Paper Wind and Port Hawkesbury Paper Mill. It's my great pleasure to speak today. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person. A flight cancellation and Canadian weather made it impossible for me to be there today. My job today is really to offer thanks, and I will do that in a minute, but I'm hoping to be able to deliver that thanks in person over the coming weeks and months as the project continues. I'm thrilled that so many people have been able to attend in person, and I think that's reflective of really the huge number of contributors and the level of cooperation that the project has received at so many levels, which have already been mentioned. And I just want to say at a broad, from a broad perspective, the level of cooperation and support from the various stakeholders that this project has received, frankly, has been mind-blowing, and we are extremely grateful. We're thrilled to have reached this milestone. It is only a milestone. It's not a destination, a milestone of a final investment decision, full funding for the project. Throughout this project, although it is an exceedingly complex endeavor, we've had two very simple objectives. The first is to build a world-class wind farm. And the second is to invest in the long-term sustainability of the Port Hawkesbury Paper Mill. This project achieves both, or is a milestone to achieving both of those objectives. Everything that people have said before about the benefits of green energy, renewable energy, sustainable energy is true. To be somewhat even more blunt, it's also cost effective. That's something that is lost on many people, but wind energy today in Nova Scotia is a cost-effective alternative. And in addition to all of its other benefits, it has an economic benefit as well. And we are thrilled to be able to invest as a consequence. I'd like to say thank you. I don't know if they were able to join either in person or remotely. I'd like to say thank you to Chief Peters and Chief Denny on behalf of the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs. Secondly, a thank you, a welcome to our investment equity partner, WMA, and Crystal Nichols, President and Interim General Manager, also a board member for Port Hawkesbury Paper Wind. This is a new partnership for us, but we're thrilled about it. We're very excited about the long-term prospects for that partnership, and I really welcome the opportunity to work in partnership with WMA. All infrastructure projects have the most significant impacts, both positive and negative, on local communities and local stakeholders. And in that regard, we have received tremendous local support and input from various quarters. First of all, I'd like to thank our strong, committed, and engaged community liaison committee members. They have given freely and generously of their time, and their input has been most appreciated. And we look forward to their continuing engagement and continuing opportunity to listen to and engage with the community through that. It's not the only venue through which we will receive input, but we are tremendously appreciative of their efforts and time. Next, to both the municipality of the District of Guysborough and the town of Mulgrave, to the warden of MOGG and the mayor of town of Mulgrave, their CAOs, council, and staff. Their support, their thoughtfulness in engaging on this project is most appreciated. I'd also like to acknowledge the community of Lincolnville, a community directly geographically connected to the project, and their role in all of this. And we appreciate the engagement and the feedback we've received from the community of Lincolnville. Next, I'd like to thank our lending partners, Stonebridge Financial on behalf of our senior lenders, and to the Canada Infrastructure Bank. The CIB has stayed with this project for over 5 years, which is really saying something about commitment and engagement of resources to the project. It's a partnership that we are extremely thankful for. They have been very thoughtful and committed partners on the project. I'd like to, in particular, thank Sachin Gunaratna and Mike Schoen, two individuals who spent a tremendous amount of time on this project and frankly went above and beyond in the final days of our negotiations to reach this point, and their efforts are most appreciated. I'd like to thank the federal government and the representatives that are there today, including the Honorable Mike Callaway for the federal government's support of this project. No large infrastructure project in a federation like Canada can work and achieve the best outcomes without the level of cooperation between the various levels of governments. And it obviously starts with the federal government on this project through their funding through the CIP. I'd like to say, and this echoes something that Minister Hallman just said, that it's become fashionable in some quarters to complain about regulation and bureaucracy. I am not here today to do that. That has not been our experience. Every project that involves energy and a large infrastructure project involves a significant amount of regulation. There's good reason for that, and we understand and respect that. Our experience in working with the provincial government through the various ministries is really something that I can't explain in terms of the positive experience that we've had. I'd like to thank Misters Morrow, Mr. Boudreau, Mr. Hallman on behalf of their various ministries and the local ridings. And as Minister Hallman said, I'd really like to thank the staff of the various provincial ministries.
With me today is Jeff Clark, Director of Sustainability and Economic Development with Port Hawkesbury Paper. Welcome back.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me.
Maybe first of all, I noticed that in a Facebook post, Port Hawkesbury Paper said that they've reached a financial close on the wind farm project. Maybe you can explain that. I guess it's kind of self-explanatory, but what exactly does that mean?
No, I think that's a fair point. The announcement, I guess, if it had to come from our perspective, would be we achieved a major milestone of financial close on that date, and have secured all the necessary financing to put that in place. So on December 20th of 2024, as per the culmination of just a momentous amount of work, we achieved that milestone of reaching financial close, which means that our private equity investment from Stern Partners, our owners, with our Indigenous partner, WMA, as a 10% equity partner, then back with debt financing with repayable loans to both the Canadian Infrastructure Bank and Stonebridge. The financial close was achieved, and we're moving now and into the next phase of the project, which is the civil work and construction. So major milestone it makes the project real, and now we move forward and do the heavy lifting.
So how much is Port Hawkesbury Paper itself contributing to the wind farm project?
Well, to date, we've outlaid over 25 million before financial close. As you've seen, we're getting a loan from a repayable loan from the CIB in the order of $217.9 million. And WMA is getting a repayable loan of $6.3 million. And the rest will be made up by with Stonebridge.
So what phase is the wind farm project at now? You just mentioned you're going to have to start doing the heavy work and things like that. So where do things stand?
Well, when it all came together with financial close, one of the components was that we had secured a land lease and land easements on Crown land. That's already within the land that was being managed for sustainable forest management by Port Hawkesbury Paper itself. So Port Hawkesbury Paper Wind has secured the land lease necessary to start the turbines. We had already done some civil work and construction on a piece of private land that Port Hawkesbury Paper owns in Guysborough County. So we started with the operations and manufacturing building and cleared the land there and started setting up that structure, as well as where the substation is going to be located. But with the financial close right now and having the land lease in place, we did the vegetation clearing last fall, going in early into Q4 for the turbine pads and the collection system. So basically, on 24 of those sites, we cleared the ground for the turbine pads. We ended up so even though the land lease was for 125 hectares in total for all the turbines, we cleared 43 hectares of land. That's all that's required for the base pads and the approaches. So we expect to start civil work, which is the clearing of those, remove the overburden on those sites and start the cement work on the base pads Q2 of 2025.
Now, when we spoke last spring, you mentioned that this project is vital to the Port Hawkesbury Paper operation. Perhaps you can elaborate on that?
Absolutely. I mean, the reason we're pursuing such a project from our perspective and on behalf of the province is we're looking to get better control over the volume and the cost and security of the power that we received. As you know, from our past interview, Port Hawkesbury Papers, the largest industrial consumer of power in the province, nearly 11% of the provincial load on an ongoing basis when that power is available. So what we're trying to do is get a little bit more certainty and control of our one of our largest inputs. A few years back, power was probably 35% of a cost of goods sold per unit ton of paper. Over time, that rose to 45%, and recently it was as high as 55% of energy costs being for every ton of paper. What this does, it gives us a runway of certainty of about 25 years for the land lease for the project lifespan for phase one. So it gives us a lot more price certainty. But what it also does is gives us lowers the carbon intensity of the products that we do. That power is going to the provincial grid. So those green credits are also going to the provincial grid. We anticipate that they may have lowered the carbon intensity or the carbon footprint of the provincial grid by almost 5%, which is significant. Therefore, the energy we receive from the grid should be able to lower our product and our carbon footprint that we use to produce our product. The other thing it does on the provincial scale is helps the province meet its goal of becoming 80% renewable by 2030 and helping get off coal with alternative energy generation projects. So this is a win-win all the way around.
So which parts of the Port Hawkesbury Paper operation will be fueled by this wind farm once it comes online?
Primarily, it's going to be our pulping operations. That is the most energy intensive aspect of our business. So we anticipate that'll be the primary aspect that the energy will be applied to.
Now, when we spoke last spring, you mentioned, and you said this earlier as well, the farm will cover 125 hectares between the communities of Upper Big Tracadie and Lincolnville in Guysborough County, along with another 300 hectares of shared easements. Has that changed at all? You mentioned the scope is the same and all that, but I guess more specifically what I'm looking to, has there been any opposition expressed from those communities or others about this wind farm project?
Very little opposition, and if so, I mean, we try to be extremely responsive and transparent on our approach. We've established a community liaison committee with representatives from all those local communities you just mentioned. It's been outstanding, actually, at the level of two-way dialogue, how to tackle the more sensitive or even the tougher topics. But to receive the concerns back and for us to either be able to address that immediately or go find the subject matter experts to be able to find us those answers. But we do make a strive to get the answers back as quickly as possible and as complete as possible. I mean, there's some studies that we're still continuing with that we, before the site goes up, the best you can do is to model in real life scenarios what's happening. So obviously we're going to continue on with a lot of studies, whether it be noise modeling and flickering, but we have a pretty good scientific understanding of how those things should operate based on All the models we ran to date using data from real life situations already.
Now, I noted that the warden of the municipality district of Guysborough, Paul Long, was in attendance, as was Richmond MLA Trevor Boudreau, who was the Minister of Energy, and the Guysborough Tracadie MLA Greg Morrow, who's Minister of Agriculture. So maybe you can speak to, on the flip side of that, how much support you have received from the community.
The support from both the community, like I said, we from the community liaison, we're community members, came in first. There was quite a number of folks, had initial reservations, but through our regular meetings that we have and the open houses, some have become strong advocates for the project. The same is true with all levels of government. I mean, we have, since we started this project, we've had a tremendous amount of interaction with the federal government, the provincial government, like you said, in these areas where Port Hawkesbury operates in the 7 eastern counties on forestry, and now with our water and wind in Guysborough County. So we have a large historical footprint there, and we'll continue on. And we displayed over the last number of decades that we have sustainable management on those resources. When it comes to the municipalities, very strong support, and even down to the town council level, we've had great engagement and support from the town as well.
Now, according to the press release issued after the announcement was made, the Goose Harbour Lake Wind Farm involves the construction and installation of 24 Nordex cold climate turbines at a 100-meter hub height with anti-icing system blade technology, producing zero-emission sustainable electricity generation capacity of 168 megawatts. Because these are cold climate turbines, are they more expensive than regular ones, and how much more do they cost?
I don't have the difference of how much they cost above and beyond, but we pick the right technology for the right situation. Given the climate here in the Strait of Canso, there's the ice buildup can definitely be a concern. So that was something we wanted to implement. We took study into a lot of consideration of the icing and the dangers that could pose. So yeah, all of our turbines will have heated blades to reduce that risk. Some of the turbines located closer to the communities, not on the interior of the project, will also have serrated blades. So that's going to further reduce the decibels of those turbines to any dwellings that exist in the area. So
now, when we spoke last year, you mentioned that this was in phase 1 of the project, and when the announcement was made on January 6th, it was confirmed that commercial operations are expected to start in 2026. You mentioned before when we spoke in the spring that the schedule had changed, construction schedule had changed somewhat. How confident are you guys can remain on this timeline to start operations next year?
We're relatively confident that we're going to meet our timelines. We have hired world-class experts in companies that have a lot of expertise in both construction. So Res Construction will be leading the general contracting and construction of this project. They have a lot of experience in these in building wind farms, so we're quite confident there. The project, now that we have financial close, we just received all the firm quotes. We've settled up with our suppliers, got all the contractors lined up. So given that the window construction for major projects is somewhat relatively short, we're talking about a 2-year project, 18 months now. So the civil work and construction starts here in Q2 of 2025. We expect the turbines to start to be delivered in Q2 of 2026. There will be a continuous progress of it's going to go to the laydown area, but as we receive turbines, we're going to start the erection process to put those turbines up and connect them into the system. So they're not just going to sit there. It's going to be a lot of just-in-time construction and completion of the turbines. And as the turbines get set up, we're going to connect them in the system. So we should be able to have a pretty good confidence level about the project being completed on time and on budget.
The press release mentioned that this project is going to create 150 jobs at the peak of construction and 5 permanent jobs once it's up and running. Now, you noted how significant it is that you have a sustainable source of energy to power your operations, but it's also going to create jobs, which is going to be good for the area. But what does it mean for the company to be able to create long-term permanent jobs like this?
It's essential for us. I mean, we're a multi-generational employer here on this site. The mill currently employs 326 full-time employees and 900 contractors. About half of those are in our woodlands operations and the other support facility here on site. A recent economic analysis also suggested we support a full-time equivalent of another 200 service jobs for Port Hawkesbury Paper itself. And then we support a supply chain of 500 Nova Scotia businesses that support and supply our company. This addition has impacts in multiple ways. In addition to adding an additional business unit to our operations through wind, it also provides a lot more long-term certainty for the pulp and paper mill. Energy, as I mentioned earlier, with its increasing cost per ton of paper, what this does is gives a lot more operating certainty, especially around the cost and energy availability to the mill. So in multiple aspects, it really does a lot for job security and family providing jobs in Eastern Nova Scotia, especially the rural part.
With me today is the Member of Parliament for Cape Breton-Canso. Welcome back, Mike Kellaway.
Hey, Jake, how are you?
Is this a series of loans from the Canada Infrastructure Bank? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so the Canada Infrastructure Bank is a federal crown corporation, and it's designed to support a variety of projects in terms of loans. It can range from energy to different sectors. In this case, it is energy, and it's renewable energy. And this kind of builds on, it's something that I've worked on behind the scenes as well. This kind of builds on the narrative that I truly believe we need to promote in our area of being a capital of renewable energy, whether it's green hydrogen, onshore wind, or offshore wind. We have the potential to be what oil and gas is in Alberta. I believe we have that potential here in the Strait area, all of Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia. In this case, the project sells itself. Number one, it's ecologically sound, and I also think it's cost effective for constituents across Nova Scotia. And why I say that is because the power that Port Hawkesbury Paper uses on our existing grid is substantial. Taking them off the grid or even partially off the grid with the use of wind power will play a tremendous role in terms of energy consumption and also then producing energy vis-a-vis renewable energy, which leaves considerably less of a carbon footprint. So this ties into major investments we've made in a variety of ways in terms of renewable energy. You know, we made an announcement earlier this summer of almost $23 million for Everwind. We're working with other companies like Bear Head. That's important, that's jobs. But we also made an announcement in July of $300 million that focuses on Canada's relationship with Germany and the supply chain and the business chain as it relates to renewable energy. A good deal of that money, a good amount of that money will find its way in Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia. So all of this plays a fundamental role of, you know, if the hub is renewable energy and it's about greening our own grid and selling renewable energy elsewhere and greening our own grid, and the spokes are all of these projects that we've been able to fund over the last year. This last year, not over the last 5 years, in Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia, we've made approximately $521 million worth of announcements in the riding. That's $500 million in 12 months. That's because of initiatives like Port Hawkesbury Paper. So you have Port Hawkesbury Paper, who's a major stakeholder in this, obviously, but also the 13 First Nations of Nova Scotia are part of this as well, along with a very progressive county in Guysborough County and the town of Mulgrave, but all the other adjacent counties, Richmond, Victoria, Antigonish, Guysborough, are really key in this. So I'm really excited about this because I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be about the ratepayers. It's going to be about the cost of energy. It's about greening our grid. And Nova Scotia has been very progressive on this, on greening our grid. And the provincial party, Progressive Conservative Party, and the Liberal Party federally have been working very closely on this. So it's really, I think, a good news story about jobs, about energy, about greening our grid, and eventually for this particular project, how that's going to impact the constituents in terms of rates. Yeah.
Now you mentioned there too, there seems to be community buy-in for this project in Guysborough, and there seems to be a lot of support on the ground there for this.
There is, and there has to be. For any project like this, the kind of foundation is community support. If you don't have community support on large scale projects like this, they won't succeed. And rightly so. You know, the community is the should be and must be the major stakeholder. And so to see everyone working together is really, really important. And also to see that Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia, the counties, the First Nations communities, the provincial government and the federal government are embracing renewable energy is really, really important, because we have folks in Ottawa on, and I'll stress this, on the conservative benches who don't believe in climate change, don't believe in renewable energy, have voted time and time again against renewable energy for Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia through voting against the changes to the Atlantic Accord that would enable regulations, new regulations, to fall under green energy and green hydrogen and renewable energy. I feel very passionate about this. This is about jobs. This is about the future, and the future starts today. So the CIB funding this wouldn't happen if we didn't have all of those stakeholders supporting it. It just wouldn't happen. And this is a real huge opportunity for Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia. But in terms of the Port Hawkesbury Paper initiative, this is a huge opportunity for the province of Nova Scotia. And the provincial government gets it. And the federal government gets it. And all the stakeholders I mentioned, I get it. There are some in Ottawa that don't, that would basically, in a parallel universe, if there was a conservative government, quite frankly, and this is not being political, this is just where they stand. They don't subscribe to renewable energy. They voted time and time again against it, which they mean they've voted time and time against Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia and jobs. But that's kind of where we're at in a pathway and kind of a crossroads. And I want Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia, quite frankly, to be the hub, not just for the region, but for the country in terms of renewable energy. We're on that path, and I'm going to be focused on keeping us on that path.
Now, you mentioned about that, about it creating a green energy hub and sustainable energy in that. But in the press release as well, it mentioned that the project will create 150 jobs at the peak of construction and up to 5 permanent jobs during the operations phase and generate economic development for the region. This according to the Canada Infrastructure Bank. And I assume those are probably good paying jobs that, are long term.
This is about, the short-term jobs, which are powerful and meaningful in communities like Richmond, Inverness, Guysborough, Antigonish, Victoria counties. They're high-paying jobs in terms of construction, but also those jobs, you talked about the 5, that's important, but also to establish this infrastructure, to be able to become, for example, let's take the Port Hawkesbury example, the one we're talking about now. To be able to not be taxing the existing grid, power grid, because Port Hawkesbury Paper takes a lot of power from the grid, right? And they also employ a lot of people, 325, then there's spin-off jobs. So we need to make sure that Port Hawkesbury Paper is efficient and effective on every level. This is going to help that. We need to ensure that we green our grid. That's going to do that. That, by the way, encourages an investment from other countries in our country when it comes to renewable energy. Case in point, Germany. Germany does not enter in an agreement with Canada, in my opinion, without Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia being a central pillar of it. There's no question. So we have an opportunity for more jobs, more growth, more expertise coming, developing from within our region and country, and bringing expertise in that lends itself to more jobs, more businesses, that focuses on all aspects of renewable energy, onshore, inshore wind, your green hydrogen, and that brings in R&D, research and development dollars. So if you look at our community college, that's going to, they're already now, this is always a good thing to see when the community college, because when they're focusing on developing programs for students and future job opportunities tied to training, they're doing their research and they're already looking at developing programs in training and their core programs related to green hydrogen and offshore wind in terms of where those jobs will be. So that's really, really important. But it's about, again, about jobs, the environment, encouraging more investment, more businesses set up, and we're seeing that. Everwind doesn't come here by accident. Bearhead doesn't come here by accident. The country of Germany, I stress this, the country of Germany doesn't look at Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia in terms of providing a supply of renewable energy by accident. And the federal government has recognized that. And I certainly have recognized that. But there are those that will want to kill that, quite frankly. There will be those that will want to kill that for ideological purposes. And here's the other thing. Ideology should have nothing to do with this. This is about economic development opportunities. This is about job opportunities. This is about Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia finding its right place, and the right place is on the cutting edge of a new industry.
So the project is being financed under the Canada Infrastructure Bank's $10 billion clean power priority sector, which is dedicated to addressing financial gaps in new projects such as renewables, district energy systems, and in energy storage. Maybe you can talk about what are those financing gaps that they're referring to?
Well, I think one of the things that you'll find in any business, whether it's small, medium, or large, is the access to capital. And what we're doing with this is providing access to capital to ensure that they get up and running effectively. Like, we're not their only source of funding. They have other sources of funds that both in terms of the private sector and whatnot. The job of the CIB, the Canada Infrastructure Bank, is to be that source of capital that is needed to ensure that they get off on the right foot, that they reach milestones, and their fundamental milestone is completion. to complete the project. But to get there, you require a substantial amount of capital. And so that's where a Crown corporation like the CIB, the Infrastructure Bank, comes in. And it basically supports the efforts of the Port Hawkesbury Paper in this case, and the 13 First Nations communities. But also, I want to make it very clear, Port Hawkesbury Paper and the 13 First Nations communities are putting in substantial dollars too. They're putting a fair amount of equity in this. So this is why I like this project, Jake. I always look at businesses who want to set up here, or existing businesses that want to expand in an area that's going to create jobs, greater efficiencies for Nova Scotia. I always look to see what skin in the game do you have? What investments are you going to make here? So they're making substantial investments. As you can tell, this is probably, I think, a $400-500 million initiative, easy. And and there's an ebb and flow in costs too, right? What was prognosticated a year ago might be a little bit more now. So we got to constantly look at how do we fill those gaps on a capital side. But that's the fundamental role of this particular pot of money, and it is a loan. So and you know what? I think that all my chips are on the 13 First Nations communities, all the counties in the region, and of course Port Hawkesbury Paper on this. Very progressive, very focused on where the ball is, where the puck is going to be, and that is around renewable energy. And that's where I believe, there's a definitive difference between and I want to stress, the Progressive Conservative government, the provincial party, has been absolutely essential in this. And they've been supportive in this. And they've been great because they get it. But the Conservative Party, which has no affiliation with the Progressive Conservative Party, by the way, would not be kind to this particular kind of project. So we need to be bold. We need to be unapologetic when it comes to being from Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia, that we can be leaders in industry. This is another example of it.
Now you're talking about the renewable energy aspect of it, and according to a press release that was issued yesterday by the Canada Infrastructure Bank, the wind farm is expected to reduce energy production emissions by more than 350,000 tons a year, equivalent to 2.4% of Nova Scotia's emissions in 2021, and help the province's energy transition moving from coal to renewables. And you noted how that's a very important aspect of this announcement. But on another note too, and you referred to this, the CIB said the loan will support 13 Mi'kmaq First Nations through the WMA, and they will buy a 10% stake in the project. And they said the Indigenous equity loan is the second to the WMA, following a deal last year related to an energy storage project in Nova Scotia. And I assume is that referring to the green energy projects that are proposed for Point Tupper?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think they would have some connectivity to it at least. And again, the 13 First Nations communities are completely critical to this. And to have not just their support, but their partnership is really key. And I think it's a blueprint, Jake, for future development opportunities in renewable energy, but also in other areas. Our region is at its best when we're not bickering with each other and we're working together. And there are those that are out there that would love to see division and love to see bickering. I'm not one of them. I think we have the talent base. I think we have the skill base. I think we have the political will to get jobs like this done. And without the 13 First Nations community, without a Port Hawkesbury Paper, without the town of Mulgrave, the municipality of Guysborough, and all adjacent municipalities, then we don't have this. But it's really exciting. It's an exciting initiative. It's happening. It's not theoretical. And I think it lends itself to the conversations that you and I have had before, is that hold on to your seats, because I think we're going to see some major changes in terms of development in a positive way, in terms of jobs in a positive way, in terms of other industries coming to our region in a positive way. It's not going to happen overnight, but there's a choice in these. There's a choice here. There's a choice to make investments like this or don't. And when you have all the opportunity at your fingertips and you need capital, then we need to find the capital, which we have done here. It doesn't mean that there's going to be more requests and more needs in terms of financing, but we'll work on that.
So which First Nations are involved in the WMA?
My understanding is all 13 in Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
Which is fantastic. And the leadership there is fantastic. I work with all the chiefs in my other portfolio, which is fisheries. So I have a very large amount of respect for the chiefs, and also all the folks that I've worked with in the First Nations communities over the years, like Crystal Nicholas, and others that are really, really key in this. So exciting times, and you know what? We need to go for it. We need to go for opportunity. And don't let anyone scare you. Don't let anyone, boo-hoo this. You take your swings. Either you get in the batter's box and take your swings, or you don't. But I can tell you, you're not going to hit a single, double, triple, or home run by sitting in the batter circle, never going to the plate.
Thank you for watching Strait Talk. Please tune in again to find out what we will be talking about.